Hey there! Welcome to the What's Your Thing podcast, where we're all about great conversations with interesting people.
That's right. I'm Brennan.
And I'm Caitlin.
There's something awesome about every person, a thing that makes them truly unique.
We want to know what it is about everyone, so we're asking,
What's your thing?
Twenty-four episodes of the What's Your Thing podcast, but we're doing 24th episode, second installment of Caitlin's 30-day at least 30-day challenge of the carnivore diet. We're going to go through away from our standard interview process, and I'm going to jump right to it. Caitlin, tell me, I want to know, how was your first week on the carnivore diet, and what's new with you?
Okay. So I'm going to straight up be super honest, and feel free to go ahead and yell at me in the comments, but I was very good with what I ate. I was not good with what I drank. I had some friends up at our cottage this weekend and I had a lot of wine. So not good.
Evan, we got you back. You're going to be part of our at least 4-week installment. So tell us, how's that from your expertise in the carnivore diet?
Well, I mean, life happens, right? It's not a sprint. So you can always just start right back up again, right? So, whatever effects you've had on your state of ketosis or anything like that, it's not anything that's going to be super negligible. So, you just get right back on the horse and keep going. I took a year break,
Yeah, I feel like, if I can interject, I feel like that's what would scare a lot of people from because it is a lifestyle change, and if that's what you want, if you're 100% committed. But I think some people, at least from what I've been reading, they're a little afraid to make the commitment because they're like, oh no, what happens if I slip, or if I get off for a bit, if I want to take a break? Am I am I letting myself down? Am I letting everybody else down, kind of thing?
Yeah. So what I will say though is that I lost, for those who are wondering, I lost 1.8 pounds and almost 2 inches overall though. So I still think I did pretty well. The last few days though, I don't think I'm eating enough fat. And the reason that I don't think I'm eating enough fat is that I'm eating at work. So today I went to the grocery store and I went to the deli counter and I got some roast beef and chicken, but there's no melted butter. There was nothing else. So I really don't think I'm eating enough fat. So I think what I need to do is I need to switch up, either bring my lunch of something or just wait until I get home and eat a fatty ribeye with a stick of butter on it or something like that.
Well, you can also go, there's a lady, Kelly Hogan, she's pretty famous in the carnivore space. She would say, eat a stick of butter. She's big on McDonald's or Wendy's hamburger patties. So, go through the drive-through, get 4 or 5 hamburger patties, however many you need to satisfy you, and she eats that. And apparently she would keep her fridge stocked with it. So it's not easy necessarily to find what you want when you're out there, but if you can figure out these little hacks, you can kind of get around it. And
yeah, because I thought maybe about going to A&W and getting bacon matzo burgers without a bun.
There you go.
It probably would have been better.
Would have been perfect. Now, I mean, you can never 1,000% know what's in the cheese, but then again, is it anything that's going to be
A&W in Canada, they say, is real cheese.
That's like the old adage where people were wondering about, say, McDonald's or whatever, because they named the company 100% pure beef. So is it 100% pure beef, or is that the name of the company?
I think it also depends on how much you challenge yourself. I know that I've read about, I do myself intermittent fasting, and I've switched to black coffee completely, but a few times are like, oh, I'm trying to do a 16 or 20-hour fast, and it's like I threw a cream in my coffee, and they're like, you know what, as long as it's under 50 calories, it technically doesn't break your fast. So Caitlin, tell us what happened today.
Okay, so today I went to the naturopath and we talked about how I need to give up coffee and wine because it's not helping my anxiety, because I'm going through a lot of things right now and I'm in a constant state of anxiety. So she said, you're drinking wine, it's sugar, and it's interrupting your sleep. you're drinking coffee and you're not reacting well to it because you're intermittent fasting and you're drinking it with this heavy cream that does have sugar. So you are breaking your fast. So you're still spiking your insulin, even though you're carnivore because you're doing like the one a day or something. So she's like, if you want to feel better, you give up the coffee with the cream. She said, if you have to go down to one a day of black, give up the wine and give up the intermittent fasting. So if you're going to have one giant 20-ounce steak, break it up a little bit. So that's what she told me. And she also said, carnivore's fine, but she said, I would like you to be on vitamin D and magnesium. So she did give me some of that to start taking.
Watch
But
out for the
here's the thing. My first few days, I told you guys I did carnivore 3 days, and it just didn't work for me. But this time I was taking, as soon as I got up in the morning and as soon as I went to bed at night, I was taking Elementi electrolytes unflavored. Completely different experience this time. I wasn't walking by the snack table looking for food. I wasn't feeling cloudy. I wasn't feeling headachy. And so I really feel now with giving up coffee because I wake up, have a coffee, get to work, have a coffee, and then like an hour before lunch, have a coffee. Guaranteed 3 coffees a day. So now I'm thinking that the electrolytes are really going to help me because I'm not only going to be taking out the sugar from like the glass of wine at dinner and stuff, I'm also taking out the caffeine. So I really think the electrolytes are going to help.
Yeah, I've been thinking about something similar. Um, I watch a lot of Dr. Anthony Chafee, and he always says that last 5% that you give up will give you 95% in the benefit column. And whether that's the case for everybody or not, who knows? Um, and for me, I tend to drink massive coffee. I throw butter in it and salt. I think we talked about that the last time. But a massive coffee in the morning, and then probably around 10 o'clock, I'll have another large coffee. So now I'm playing with the idea that Dr. Ken Berry kind of went with, which is like go decaf. So you're taking a lot of the caffeine out of it, a lot of the stimulant out of it, and I drink it black anyway. So um, I'm kind of playing with that. And I'm
Well,
certainly
how long have you been carnivore right now, Evan? Because I'm 7 days. How long are you?
so since March the 1st, and I can certainly I feel better. Um, I can start to see like even looking at my face talking back to me here on the computer, I feel like I can see a difference in my face. So I can certainly feel it in my clothes. Um, yeah, it's just a progression. The scale, like we talked about the last time, doesn't necessarily always move. Right now, I'm kind of in a stall pattern, and I did that at the beginning as well, a couple weeks in. So obviously, there's something going on with my body that it's working something out, and I just keep at it, and then eventually it just starts to go back in the right direction.
Okay. Well, what if I were to challenge you, because after your morning coffee, what if I were to challenge you to go decaf for a week and then we could see how I'm doing caffeine and alcohol free and you're doing caffeine free next week?
Sure, I have no problem going decaf. I think I just ran out of coffee here at home anyway, so that makes it easy. I can just pick up decaf.
Get ready for
Perfect.
the headache.
Yeah.
I
Now
go I go
I,
days
I
from time
go
to
I go
time.
the salt. Sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
No, I just said I go days from time to time without coffee. Like I'll just try and cut it back, and I find it just kills my head, which is obviously a sign that maybe you shouldn't be drinking as much as you do.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So
For me,
like
it's just like, I don't even know if I really want the coffee anymore. It's just so ingrained in my routine at this point.
yeah, I
Chamomile
think
tea.
it is it's a habitual thing for sure. And everybody
I'm
sits down and has a coffee and that whole thing. I
I'm
mean,
used.
I guess we could have a glass of hot water. It would be it
Yeah.
would be kind of akin to the same thing.
I like tea. I don't know what the carnivore diet says about tea, but you can get no sugar teas. They're caffeine free, and I find that's helped me a lot. Sip on that all day, especially if you're doing a fast. It's something like you're constantly like
Yeah, tea. I don't see an issue with tea. I mean, it all depends on what school of carnivore you're following, right? So if you're one of the people that's super pure, you're going to say, okay, well, tea is a plant, so we shouldn't be doing that, and plants are trying to kill you. There's lots of evidence to support that. I'm certainly no expert or doctor, but for me, coffee has been fine for me. I still drink tea sometimes. I try to keep it to like black tea because if you get into any of the teas with any of the flavors, there's always hidden ingredients, whether it's some kind of guar gum or something like that I probably shouldn't be having. So I try to keep it as clean as possible, but I still do the coffee thing. So
You led us right into my next series of, I guess, question statements. Is one thing that I think would appeal to me if I were to, I'm looking at the fall for maybe doing this challenge myself. One thing that would appeal to me is like, I like change. So it's very, very, very impressive and very disciplined to stick to a carnivore diet. But one thing I was reading about is variations, and I wanted your opinion on this. And maybe Caitlin, if you're going to continue with this, is this anything that interests you guys? We got the standard carnivore diet, which is the most common and strict form, focusing solely on animal products, excluding all plant-based foods. You said with the exception of a black tea. That's pretty much you, right?
so there's one step further to that. There's the lion diet.
Oh, okay.
And
I
and
don't see that one.
the lion diet is basically beef, salt, and water. If you research into like Michaela Peterson, she basically kind of started herself on that path. She had crazy rheumatoid arthritis and all sorts of stuff going on at a really young age, anxiety, depression, the whole nine yards. So she started eliminating stuff from her diet, trying to figure out what was going on. And she ended up getting to a point where she was only eating beef, salt, and water. And that's, I think she still pretty much does that to this day. And that's the only thing that alleviated all of her symptoms.
Okay, well, that's definitely a step beyond what I was
Yeah.
reading about. We got the standard. There's the keto carnivore diet, which is a variation. It's more lenient, and it allows for a small amount of carbs, typical from dairy products
A lot
like
of
cream
green
cheese.
veggies.
Yeah, see, I feel like I could get into that one as a start because I do like I going the idea of going carnivore makes me like veggies a lot more than I thought I did. Uh, Caitlin, what about you? You're sticking with the standard. What about this? Have you heard of the hardcore? Is that maybe the lion one? It's no deviations, strictly adhering to animal products only, or is the lion you said it's strictly beef, right?
So, so that's, I feel like that's more of mainstream carnivore because most carnivores, and coffee is kind of like, yeah, if you're a lion diet, you're not doing coffee. But for the most part, I think most other people on carnivore that I've seen, anyways, talk about coffee, keeping coffee in their diet. I uh, I don't think that it's. I think that's more like the mainstream carnivore is. Maybe there's a coffee in there or something like that, or heavy cream, but um, you're keeping it fairly strict with animal products. Now, there's also there's kind of a split there where you've got you can do chicken, pork, beef, fish, the whole nine yards on one side of it, and then you have the other side that says ruminant animals only, so four-chambered stomachs. Um, you're looking at like goats, sheep, obviously cows. So you're trying to stay with four-chambered stomachs, and I think some variations of that call themselves the lion diet too. So there's a lot of mixing there. Um, but yeah, lion's your strictest, and then everything else kind of follows after that. Then you got dirty carnivore, which is, you know, it's kind of similar to what you were talking. Dirty carnivore and eativore are to me they're the same kind of thing basically.
Well, there's ketosis and muscle building is what they say. While ketosis isn't the direct goal of the carnivore diet, it often occurs due to zero carb nature.
Yeah,
Additionally, they're claiming
it's
that the muscle.
fasting mimicking, right?
I have a question. So we talk about like berries tasting really sweet and wanting to like gorge yourself on berries in the fall on a bush or something, and then like kids having like such aversion to Brussels sprouts or spinach or vegetables like that. So do you think that that is our hunter gatherer brain telling us that maybe we shouldn't be eating those things because kids gag when they eat them?
Yeah, I would say for me at least, I believe that that's true. Um, you're obviously going to have arguments from the vegan side saying, well, there's this and that in meat, and that's very possibly true. Like I said, I'm no scientist or expert or doctor in this sort of thing, but having done a significant amount of research on it, like Anthony Chafee will talk about how the reason we still have pesticides around today is because of all of the toxic chemicals that are naturally in plants. And when they battled it out in court, there was a longer list for the plants than there was for the chemicals in the pesticides, so they didn't end up being able to get rid of them. So that's kind of eye-opening. And there's certain amounts of certain foods, if they're not cooked properly, they can actually cause harm or even death. There's kidney beans, certain things like that have a fairly high dosage of stuff you don't want, and if they're not cooked properly, you could be in some serious trouble if you eat them. So I tend to believe that, yeah, your body has kind of that natural mechanism to be able to recognize this is good, that's not good. Like you see kids spitting out certain vegetables. To me, that's like, okay, maybe they're picking up on something that we've forgotten.
So what do you do in the what would be your game plan for you're snowed in for a few days? Are you going to look into, like, would you ever consider preserving some of your beef or something like that, like canning it? And
So I would more likely go down the road of dehydration. I have a dehydrator. I've experimented a little bit with it myself. Um, yeah, and you can dehydrate in your oven. You can do it in your oven. There's lots of stuff online about it, and it's really simple when you're following a carnivore diet because your spice is salt. So it's salted meat dehydrated to whatever is a safe temperature. And I mean, for beef, you can technically eat it raw, so it's not like there's really a safe temperature. Um, but I mean, if you were going along lines of chicken, although I've never really heard of anybody dehydrating chicken, um, you just salt it to taste and get it to that texture that you want. So whether you like it chewy or you like it hard, um, and yeah, I don't see an issue with that. So I would certainly look at that. And then I'm not I'm not as averse in like canning and stuff like that, but I know that that was a way of preserving back in the day, and I would certainly look at it as an option if it was something I was forced to look at. I can't say exactly what's going on there with chemical processes or anything like that. So I'm not I won't be canning unless I have to, let's say that. And then I I play with the idea of maybe like salting things the way that they used to. They'd salt them heavy with heavy salt, like
yeah,
salted. My dad grew up on a farm, and they did their own salted pork, that sort of thing. They did and they didn't have refrigeration, so everything was stored as best they could and that sort of thing. And they did their own butter and they did their own cream and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, provided dad's still around, if that should ever happen, I could always kind of lean on him as a resource and maybe resurrect some of the old farming techniques that he grew up with and start to do some of that sort of stuff on my own too.
I almost want to say that's my challenge to you. Caitlin's accepting and adopting to new challenges every week. You're going to quit the coffee, but I say by the end of this podcast, at least the 4 weeks, first 30-day thing, I want to see if you make some good jerky to
Well,
salt it up.
I have dabbled, but I'm no professional, that's for sure.
Well, so we've kind of established our game plan for next week. I feel that's encouraging. Caitlin, you are going to be no wine and
No
no
wine,
coffee. That is a challenge if I've ever seen one.
no
And
wine,
Evan,
no coffee. Can I do it? I can do it.
then
I
you
can do
already
it.
did a week.
Get
Yeah.
yourself some kind of sparkling water,
Mm-hmm.
something to change the texture, augment it a little bit.
Bublé's.
Yeah.
Bublé's, Michael's, yeah, get some of those into you.
Well,
Nice.
it's that was an interesting week. So, Caitlin, you learned something about yourself. You can't have the wine, you can't have the coffee. That's your new challenge. And Evan, you're going to take on the no caffeine challenge. I'll think about it. I feel like that you guys have such stronger willpowers than I do right now.
Well,
Impressive, though, I have to say.
Brenny, I think you would find that if you got into this, right, um, that it's not as difficult, if you're eating to satiation on protein and fat, it's not as difficult as it may seem. And as you get into it, your cravings and those sort of things start to fade away. So you can, like Caitlin said, you can walk past the food table and you're fine.
Yeah, I understand. I just gotta. I feel like for me, it's a mental thing. I really want October. I feel like I'm got a like game plan. I feel like I want to go straight like lion. It's like I'm just gonna be buying massive beef and see it for the month. But well, no,
Well,
it might come sooner. I got a
yeah,
race coming up in May, so
things things will change drastically if you go that route. I haven't heard of anybody really that's gone to that extent and done it the right way that hasn't had ridiculous results. And there's always the people come on and say, "Oh no, it's this happened to me or that happened to me," but I don't know how true that is. I've seen probably over the course of the last couple of years, I've probably watched thousands of stories and different podcasts and different doctors talking about it. And the majority of the evidence that I see is that this actually does do something. And then having experienced it myself, it's definitely powerful. And to speak to the whole how hard it is hard because I mean, look what happened to me. I was hardcore carnivore, well, fairly hardcore carnivore for the better part of a year. And then I slid off the rails and I thought, oh, I can do Thanksgiving. That'll be fine. And then there was something the next weekend and something the next weekend. And then Christmas hit. And after that, I was off the rails. And it took me a long time to get to a point where I was like, whoa, like, hold on, buddy. Look at the state of yourself. You're almost right back where you started. So maybe it's time to put the brakes on and get back on track with what you know works. So it's easy to slide. It's easy to slide. It really is. So it is hard in that respect. But I find once you break through and you're on it, it's pretty good.
Nice.
Well, we can see it in what you did. So that was this week. We've got the next week's challenge, as we said. Caitlin, no wine, no coffee. Evan, you're going to go no coffee. And I am going to do some research. And even with the strictest form of carnivore diet, I'm going to try and figure out some interesting ways of cooking food. And we can talk about that next week, how we'll incorporate the different variations of what you can eat, even though limited, and how you can make it a little more interesting. But that was our episode number 24. Thanks a lot, Evan, for coming on. Caitlin, good work and good luck.
Thank you. Thank
you. Please, if you like this, share it with your friends. Comment, tell us what you think of the carnivore diet. Are you willing to try it? Like us, subscribe, share.
Tell me what I'm doing right and tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yes, that's perfect. And you know what? And if we get a little more interaction, a little more encouragement, I might jump on this challenge as well. So not only do we want to know what's your thing, we want to hear from you, feedback, and we want to try your thing. So if you have something you want to see us do, we'll go out and have some fun. We'll film it and see if it's good. Mm-hmm. See you next week on the What's Your Thing Carnivore Diet podcast.
So make sure to check us out, whatsyourthingpod.com. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube, follow us on TikTok. Check us out. We're going to have a blast. What's your thing?
What's your thing?